Official compliance.
Hey, it's Larry Sharp here. A little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So happy that you have joined me this evening. And I know I've been off for a bit. I had a little bit of a Thanksgiving vacation. Not vacation. Thanksgiving away from certain things. I'm not sure it was vacation. Spent some time with family and friends. Had good news and bad news over the course. I'm sure some of you have dealt with similar issues. So I'm back. And I'm back here because something on the Sunday, Saturday weekend shows bothered me. And it's been bothering me for a while. Different things have been popping up, and I brought it up in the past, but I feel like I have to bring it up again. And I have to bring it up again because yet again and again and again, I feel no one's paying attention, which tends to be my norm. But I'm hoping that if I say it enough times, someone will get it. And maybe they won't get it now. But maybe eventually when we decide to tackle these serious issues, someone will go back and go, hey, didn't Larry Sharp talk about this like years ago? Maybe somebody will. I hope somebody will. And it's about gun violence. It's about mass shootings and killings. It's about all those things. And I saw a segment a couple weeks ago on different things which bothered me. There's been many recent mass shootings. The Q Club, I remember here in New York, Buffalo, Virginia, that football, the Walmart one also, a bunch of mass shootings. And I'm one of the rare people, and there aren't many, who will still talk about the Second Amendment right after a mass shooting. And I know some of you don't like it, but it's who I am. I'm not going to stop. It's how I feel. It doesn't change my mind on these things. And I've been talking about this and the problems for literally, and I mean literally, years. I mean, years. I've been talking about these problems, and people just don't want to hear me. And I've been trying to give solutions for these problems, and people just don't want to hear me. But again, we have people talking about it yet again. And if you know it's going to be a good show, and you know it's gonna, do me a favor, do the like, comment, share thing. I ask you every time because it does matter. So please do it. It is important. It's how people know that I'm doing this. Is why it matters. So please do it. I didn't make it up. It is the algorithms, the algorithms. That's what they're doing. So please help us out to the best of your ability. I want to bring up Michael Smerconish. And why Michael Smerconish? Because many of you have seen me bring him up. And as a general rule, I like him. I think when it comes to CNN, again, this is relative to CNN, you're not going to find somebody who is more neutral or fair than Smerconish. And again, I'm talking for CNN. So for CNN, if you're going to find someone who is neutral or who will give you both sides or this is the closest guy you're going to get is Michael Smerconish. I watch his show probably, I think, every Saturday. And today's or last week's really bothered me. It bothered me because he fell into a trope, which to me doesn't make sense, but he fell into it. Watch, and we'll talk about what I'm talking about here. If we, let me just make sure I popped it up here to make sure we're good so that we get everything that we need to get. Just so we get it right. And here we go.
And celebrated Thanksgiving this week in the aftermath of two more mass shootings.
Yep.
Last Saturday in Colorado Springs, an attacker clad in body armor opened fire in an LGBTQ nightclub during a drag show.
The attacker
and
had
killed
body
5
armor.
people. Then on Tuesday in Virginia, a Walmart manager gunned down 6 co-workers.
Yep.
He purchased the gun legally that very morning. So far this year, there have been more than 600 mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive. That's based on a definition of 4 or more shot or killed, not including the shooter. On Thanksgiving Day, President Biden spoke at a firehouse on Nantucket, said that he would attempt to pass some form of gun control before a new Congress is seated in January.
So let me bring this up if I could. He's right. There are about 600 mass shootings in America. That's about right. Here's what no one seems to ever tell you. About 80% of those, 75 to 80%, depending upon how you count it, are gang-related or domestic, meaning people know each other or gang-related. Gang-related mass shootings are by far over 70% of all mass shootings. By far. The most are that. But no one brings that up. Why? Because the vast majority of gang-related shootings are with illegal guns that are already illegal. So why would that matter? Now, but wait a minute, Larry. Some of the people who do mass shootings, some of them have legal guns. True. But when you decide, you as an individual, take your legal gun and you decide that you're going to go shoot up a place, whatever that place is, you plan it out, you decide it, you know your life is over. You are either going to be shot by the cops, you're going to shoot yourself, or you're going to be put in prison if you get captured for the rest of your life. You're aware of this. They write manifestos. They know it's over. So if you know that your life is over, either physically or in jail forever, what law is going to stop you? I'm not joking when I say this. It's a serious question. If you decide, I'm going to go take a legal owned firearm and go shoot someplace up, if you decide that, you know your life is over. They all do. They literally write manifestos and say they're going to do this. So they get caught. Most of them shoot themselves or get shot. Not all, but most do. They know their life is over. So if you know your life is over, what possible law would stop you? If it's gang related, every gun you use is already illegal. So why is it immediately that, we must immediately begin gun control? Why is that always the answer when clearly it's not working?
The idea we still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick.
It is.
It's sick.
Oh my God, horrible. That's the issue, right? No. The guy who did a Walmart shooting, handgun. The guy in the University of Virginia, handgun. What are you talking about? It's just, it's like my governor here, Kathy Hochul, making ghost guns go from illegal to illegaler. And I've solved the problem. You haven't.
Oh, no social redeeming value. Zero. None. Not a single solitary rationale for it except profit for the gun manufacturer.
It's profit. That's the problem.
I'm rooting for his success, but I'm pessimistic. In fact, I'm thinking we might as well get used to it. The sad truth is that mass shootings have become part of our American existence, and we lack the capability to make the fundamental change necessary to reduce them. Instead, we've fallen into a typical pattern.
He's right. Here's where he's right. We lack the ability to make the fundamental change to fix it. Yes. Yes, that's true. But it isn't gun control. Why do I say that? Larry, how can you possibly say that? Because in New York State, we have gun control. Lots of gun control. And we still have the Buffalo shooter. In fact, if you look at the data, you can check it yourself up. Look at the data. The vast majority of mass shootings, as he is using, are done in cities with literally the most gun control. I'm not making that up. That's literally true. You can figure this out yourself. Do your own homework. I'm making it up. So we are taking change in gun control. It's just not doing anything. So he's incorrect.
It involves extending thoughts and prayers, followed by expression of hand-wringing by some of our elected officials who really do want change.
Yep, true.
Then comes a retort focused on mental health by Second Amendment purists, maybe some limited debate, and then the news cycle moves on.
Also true.
Only to be repeated soon thereafter when there's another mass shooting.
Yep.
So let's stop spinning our wheels.
Okay.
And realize that this is the price we pay for living in the United States, mostly because of the enshrinement of our gun culture as the Second Amendment has been interpreted by the Supreme Court.
Not even close to true. This he just meant. He was right, and wrong. We've had gun culture in America for hundreds of years, literally, before our country was even a country. But where were all the mass shootings? Didn't exist. What's the common denominator? What do people always say? Well, Larry, the problem is, right, and I heard this, if you guys remember this, during the Q Club shooting, it's all because we hate gay people. That was what they said, right? But when it was a Buffalo shooting, it's all because we hate black people. That's what they said. But what about when it was the Walmart? Oh, because we hate Walmart workers? Oh, no. Well, we hate football players? Is that why? No. What's the common thread? What is the common thread from football players being shot, Walmart employees being shot, LGBTQ people being shot, black people being shot, places like white people being shot? Oh, what's the common thread? I'm going to go with, unhappy young men. Yes, the thing I've been saying for literally 5 years. Unhappy young men. That is the common denominator. But Larry, the guy in the LBG, he just hated gay people. If you look at the story, he might have been part of that community himself. What did he hate? He hated the fact that he couldn't be happy, and he saw those people being happy, and he wanted to punish them because he was an unhappy, broken young man. And what do we get instead? We get people all day long talking about, oh, these stupid incels, oh, who cares, these dumb people. Remember when the Buffalo shooting happened? Oh, it's all the racists, it's all them, the racist men. Yeah, but how does a guy become racist? Just because he just is born racist? I hope you don't think that. What happened? He went down some hole and then came out racist. That's actually what happens. He goes down some internet hole and comes out racist. Why do you go down that hole? Because he was lonely. Don't laugh. That's the reason. He was lonely. And that lonely young man went down a horrible hole. And when he came out, he was in a terrible, dark place, and he hated himself and he hated others. There's the common thread. All these young men hate themselves. So they strike out and they punish others. And we laugh at them and go, oh, dumb incels. Great. You keep laughing. You know what they're going to keep doing? Murdering our children. I want you to really think about that, Mr. Smerconish, or anyone else who's looking at this going, gun control, put the people in jail. Why? So they can be even angrier and come out and murder our children. That's the problem. The rest of this is just rhetoric and talk and garbage.
The Second Amendment reads as follows: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I think it's pretty straightforward that those 27 words are not to be parsed and must be read as a complete thought.
They're not the same.
Immediately post-Revolutionary War, the idea was that militias needed to keep and bear arms. Otherwise, it would simply have read, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And where the...
Let's assume he's correct. He's not. Let's assume he's correct. And we want to have a local militia. Awesome. That's a great idea. Our local militia right now, in places like New York and places like that, are actually the National Guard. So our local militias have been nationalized. Right? So what is your argument then? There is no militia because our militia was nationalized. The National Guard is the state militia, which is now run by the state, in which case, how can the state defend itself against the federal government when it's part of the federal government? You can't. So even if you are correct, you're not, but even if you are, still I require some militia locally to be armed, don't I? We no longer have a militia because we've been dumb enough to federalize our militia. So it doesn't work, does it? So either way, you're incorrect. Either way, individuals need to be able to have firearms. But let's say it doesn't matter. And you're right. And oh, let's get rid of all the guns. Okay. I would ask you, if you're in China right now, don't you kind of wish you had a Second Amendment? I'm just saying, if you were in China right now, don't you wish you had a Second Amendment? I bet you did. I bet you wish you had a Second Amendment if you were in China right now. They don't, do they? And when the government comes in and says, I'm going to lock you in your home for X number of months or weeks, you have no recourse. None. But Larry, you can't fight the American government. You can't fight the American military. You can't do that with just rifles and stuff. I think the Afghanis would disagree. The Vietnamese would also disagree. And they will be right. And they will be right. So yeah, you can. And you should stop a government that would lock you down for years. Because here's the other thing no one talks about. What made everything worse? Lockdowns. Lockdowns made everything worse. And I go, Larry, you just talking trash. Literally, Lisa Ling from CNN also did a show on this. Just recently, last weekend, did a show on the loneliness that came from the lockdowns. Yes. So it's not just me making up crazy stuff. I mean, I do make up crazy stuff, that's true. But that's not what this is. Hold on. This right here, just so you understand, this is Lisa Ling, also from CNN, who just did a show on lockdowns.
About, this idea of non-human relationships impacting in general the way we kind of interact with others in the world.
Yep.
Well, look, Anna, in the wake of the pandemic, we stopped interacting with many human beings. And a lot of companies got pretty wealthy off of that. Amazon, Zoom, DoorDash, and this company in Las Vegas that makes human dolls. They had their best years ever because people started to crave connection. But it's not just with dolls. I mean, most of us have become more reliant and addicted to our devices than ever before. We rely on these devices for everything, and we interact with
her entire show. She did, I don't know if you guys like listening or not, but it doesn't matter. The point is, she did an entire show just recently, CNN, on how the lockdowns made lonely people even lonelier and so broken that they have trouble talking to each other. So what do you have? A bunch of lonely men. So what do? They're literally buying companions. They're buying physical love dolls so they can have physical companion. I might go, oh, dumb people with that. Let him have his love doll. If he doesn't, he's going to murder our children. Give him the love doll. I mean, I'd rather not be locked down. But if my choice is that, smile, good, go do that. That's good. Don't go shoot my children. I'm okay with that, right? Or they're even having to where they're having online friends, which are their algorithms. They're making friends with algorithms. They don't know how to function with regular people. Well, if you can't function with regular people and you can never get that closeness, you will eventually believe that you are unworthy of that. You will eventually hate yourself and you will punish others and or yourself. You will be self-destructive and you will murder our children. And I don't care if you take every gun away or make every gun illegal or whatever you do, you will find a way. Because when you have a man, particularly a young man, who has nothing to lose, what's more dangerous than that? What's more dangerous than that? No law is going to stop you. No cop is going to stop him. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. And that's the piece I wanted you to see, that this is not just me. I mean, they're years late, obviously. They are years late because, again, just so you're clear, I want to make sure this is clear so you don't think, I got the receipts. This is from 2.5 years ago. Me saying it. Yep, I'm doing me. Yes, I am.
It means we're losing love. Yep. We're losing our respect as we get destroyed in family court system. We're losing our respect as we lose our assets that we've built over years. Gone. We're losing respect. And when we see no hope over the future, we start losing purpose. And when we lose all three of those, we start becoming self-destructive. This is just human nature. Is it me or you? It's all of us.
This is talking about the lockdowns. This is 3 years ago when I brought this up. 3 years ago, I warned everybody, these lockdowns are just going to make everything worse. We're going to start losing money, friendship, everything we need, and we're going to watch us all become self-destructive. And what are you seeing? Self-destruction again and again and again. And this is from 2 years ago. This is me actually from my website talking about how to reduce PTSD among veterans after a year of violation. Here's my lawsuit against that I was with the stand-up in New York, letting comedy open up so people can laugh again. This is me 2 years ago fighting this stuff. Yeah, and all you Republicans got mad at me. Yeah, you have to care about lockdowns. I was the only one defending you. Sadly, you didn't care, and you went back to your stupid Republicans who didn't do a damn thing for you. Instead of supporting someone who was actually there for years telling you how bad it was. That was me doing this. That was me. Yes, that was us out there, libertarians, doing the right thing, as we always do. But for some reason, you guys didn't want to hear that. That's fine. You don't have to. But anyway, that's what you did. You got mad. You got unhappy. You didn't do what you should have done. Let me show a little bit more about Smerconish, because there is a bit more to this I want you to hear, because he goes on to say things that are just utterly wrong.
Days of well-regulated militias are long gone, so too should any unfettered right to keep and bear arms. Well, that's not how the Supreme Court saw it in the 2008 Heller case. Justice Scalia wrote for a 5-4 majority and instead found that the Second Amendment guarantees an individual right to possess firearms unconnected to service in a state militia.
I like it. He's
Until
right.
the composition of the Supreme Court changes and the Heller decision is overturned, nothing big can be done about guns. Theoretically, we could repeal and replace the Second Amendment. But that requires a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress or by a convention.
Now, the reason why I wanted you to hear that is because of those of you on the right. I know some of you watch this on the left too, or in the middle, but for those of you on the right, you always get mad at me when I don't talk about the constitutionality of gun rights. I don't. You don't hear me bring up shall not be infringed or Second Amendment. I bring up the actual pain of gun control, the value of having a firearm. I don't talk about the Constitution. Why? Because the left sees no value in that, and he just told you that. And I wanted you people on the right to hear that. When I say things like gun control is racist, or gun control is immoral, or gun control hurts the elderly, or hurts women, or domestic abuse, I bring up those issues because the left will hear that. The left will not hear constitutional. They don't care. It's a message that lands on deaf ears. The left wants to remove the Second Amendment. He just said something, and to be clear, Smerconish is the most middle of the road Democrat on CNN, hands down. When it comes to Democrats, Smerconish is not far left at all relative to the Democrats. And he's saying, and the Second Amendment. This is why you don't hear me say that. It doesn't work. I don't need to get, rural New Yorkers to care about the Second Amendment. They already do. I'm preaching to the choir. And when one of your Republican candidates goes out there and goes, shall not be infringed, you all clap. You're fooling yourselves. You aren't the point. I have to get people in cities to understand this. That's the critical piece. I have to get people in cities to understand this. Yelling shall not be infringed in front of a bunch of rural people is irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything. It's virtue signaling for you Republicans who act like you care, candidates who actually don't. I'm the one in the city. Guys like Maj Touré out in Philly, they're the guys in the cities trying to make this happen and turn this around. He does more than I do. I'll be very clear. I bring him up because he is the epitome of what I should be doing. He's doing it better than I could ever do. Right? So that's the more important piece.
Called for by 2/3 of the states, then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures or their conventions. That's not happening. The last time the convention was the Constitution was amended was in 1992. It was the 27th Amendment having to do with whether Congress could vote for its own pay hike. No, the Second Amendment is here to stay.
Good.
And without an invitation from the Supreme Court to make change, Congress can only tinker at the margins.
Good.
Last June, President Biden signed into law what was said to be the most significant gun control bill in 3 decades.
Last June, oh my God.
It was bipartisan legislation
Look at that.
Enhanced background checks for gun buyers 18 to 21 years of age. It provided $750 million for mental health services.
Look at that.
And it closed a loophole to prevent convicted domestic abusers from purchasing firearms for 5 years. All worthy.
Now, I got to be clear. That part about domestic abuse for 5 years, I'm actually not against that. And some of you may be upset. But if you're going to threaten to kill your spouse, you get to be punished for a bit. Not forever, but for a bit. Yes, you shouldn't be threatening to kill your spouse. If you're threatening to, and this is convicted, so you're threatening to kill your spouse, you beat up your spouse, you don't get a gun for 5 years, too bad, can't defend yourself. You should not have tried to beat up your wife or your spouse or whatever. So that part I'm okay with. All the rest is garbage. But that part, I'm okay with that. You should not be trying to murder your or beat up or whatever your spouse. And if you're going to pay a price for that, pay that price. I don't have a problem with that. That one I'm okay with. The rest, but if that happened, then I guess it's the most comprehensive. So that means there's no more shootings, right? Oh, wait, there still is.
But not enough to stop the madness.
So then why do we do it?
According to a new study, the number of American adults who say they carried a loaded handgun with them daily in 2019, it was 6 million people, double the number from just 4 years prior.
And why is it a problem?
And even if Congress were not limited by Heller, it lacks the resolve, the courage to make monumental.
What he just said means nothing. He says that, well, more people are carrying. So that for some reason is bad. But it's not. Because again, literally, the looser your gun laws are, the less mass shootings you have. That's actually true. So it's not a bad thing that people are there. Now, the guy who stopped the Q Club shooter, what if he had a gun? He might have put him down earlier. Maybe we wouldn't have had 5 dead and 2 dozen wounded, something like that. You might have only 2 dead, which any dead are bad. But if he had a firearm, he might have finished him off faster. That Texas church, don't forget that one. Put that guy out there one shot. Put the guy right down. There'd have been at least another 6 people dead at least. So what he's saying doesn't mean anything. That's why he didn't have a point. He just said, look, there's more guns. Be afraid. Now let me say about other stuff. This is just a fear tactic.
Change. How do I know? Because of Sandy Hook. In 2012, a 20-year-old gunman killed 26 and 7-year-olds plus 6 adults, and still nothing of consequence changed.
Now, that is absolutely not true. And this is the part that's not true. He doesn't know. I shouldn't say the lie. He's not lying. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't know any better. Nothing changed. It did. How many of you know what happened? Some of you New Yorkers do. We got the SAFE Act. Something did happen. New York State acted immediately. They then, the next year after, passed the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act was supposed to be in response to Sandy Hook. It would stop mass shootings. That was the goal. They told us that the SAFE Act keeps us safe. They told us that the SAFE Act would stop mass shootings. That's what they told us. Yet prior to Sandy Hook, what was the mass shooting in New York State? It was, nothing. It was nothing. There were no mass shootings except gang violence in New York State. All we had in New York State was gang violence, which is because of prohibition and a war on drugs. That's it. So what did the SAFE Act do? Well, the SAFE Act did something great. What it did was it made a whole bunch of people felons overnight. Great for who? I don't know. Our prison system, I guess, because for nobody else. It made a bunch of people felons overnight, which means the average legal gun owner went into the black market. Let me repeat that. The SAFE Act made legal gun owners go into the black market. They didn't want to register, and they didn't. And they stopped. Now there's a black market in New York State in ammunition. I mean, there was a small one in New York State prior to the SAFE Act, but now it's at least doubled, if not tripled. There's a black market, huge black market in New York State now because of the SAFE Act. There's also a black market in gun sales now and there was one, but that was bigger. And the thing that matters is there really wasn't a black market in legal gun owners. That really wasn't a thing. I mean, it existed, but it was tiny. The massive black market was in gang violence. The black market in legal gun owners was very small. It's bigger now. So he made a bigger black market in legal gun owners. But of course, the goal was to get these crazy white kids who are sitting inside their homes who want to go out and be racist and white supremacists and kill the black people. That was the goal of the SAFE Act. Stop that. Stop killing kids and stuff like that. That was the goal. What actually happened? I'll tell you what happened. Prosecutors took the SAFE Act and started putting black and brown kids in inner cities in jail. I'm not joking. They took all the SAFE Act, laws and then stacked those charges on top of some other kid in a city. So now he has 6, 7, 8 charges instead of 2 or 3. So he pleads and goes to jail faster. So it put more brown and black kids in jail. That's what the SAFE Act actually did. Again, if you think I'm making this up, check it out. It's there. So there was a response. Michael, it was. New York did it. It put more kids in prison and more brown and black kids in prison. I thought Democrats cared about brown and black kids. They tell me that almost every day, but they don't do anything about it, do they? They pass laws that put kids, brown and black kids, in prison, even though they say that they care about them. That's weird. And then what happens when that kid gets out of prison? Well, the kid gets out of prison and he can't get a job and he can't get into public housing. He's screwed. So what does he do? He goes into gang violence. And when he's in gang violence, what does he do? He creates a mass shooting. So literally, not figuratively, literally, the SAFE Act is helping to create more mass shootings. Yes. So, Mr. Smerconish, you're incorrect. The opposite happened. Something did happen, and it created more mass shootings. But I'll go one step further. If you look back prior to 2020, being a cop in New York City was a very tough job, but it wasn't crazy dangerous compared to other cities. It wasn't super dangerous compared to other cities. Now, it's dangerous being a cop. Cops get shot every year. Multiple cops get killed in New York City now. Prior to 2020, that was hardly ever happened. A cop might get shot or should be killed by a perpetrator once every couple of years in New York City. And again, compared to other cities, that's not dangerous at all. Again, relative to other cities. But now in New York City, it is literally dangerous to be a cop. I mean, it's deadly. They're killing cops now. What changed in 2020? Oh, wait, lockdowns. Yeah, lockdowns changed. That's what put these kids into a spot and increased the black market. 2021 so far, 2022 may beat it, but 2021 was the most, in recent memory, most law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. Most. Do you know what year beat that? 1930. What was happening in 1930? Prohibition. And there were less cops in 1930, and still more of them were killed. Think about that. 1930 was a bloodbath. Why? Prohibition. When you create massive black markets and prohibition, you create gang violence and you create enough money to where it's worth it to start shooting cops. That's what happens. That's what we deal with the lockdowns. The lockdowns are the problem. The lockdowns and unhappy kids. That's the problem. That's the issue. But no one brings that up. He's bringing up, well, nothing happened. He's wrong.
And that was 13 years after Columbine, when 2 high school seniors murdered 12 classmates and 1 teacher. And now we have the more recent school tragedies at Parkland and Uvalde. So no amount of carnage, even involving kids, will give politicians the willingness to address a uniquely American problem.
It is.
We aren't inherently more violent than the rest of the planet.
True.
Nor do we have a monopoly on mental health problems here in the United States.
But we do have 2 things in the United States more than anything else. We have the largest prison population compared to every other nation on the planet, to include China, by both percentage and actual numbers. But you don't bring that up, do you? You don't bring that up. You don't bring the point that the biggest issue is gang violence, which goes into the war on drugs, which is why our prison population is so big. You don't bring that up at all, do you? Because that's the biggest issue. The war on drugs, and that therefore by default the war on guns, because illegal guns because of that, is what creates all this violence. It is the black market that creates violence. It's the lockdowns that increase the black market, that now cops are being killed because of this. That is the piece you don't mention. It's the second piece that you're not mentioning, which is broken and lonely men. We are the worst in the world on that, and a guy wrote a book on that, which he, by the way, he has that guy on his show. I am blown away by this. He has the guy on his show who wrote a book talking about how America has the worst situation when it comes to black, brown, white, gay, straight, whatever, boys and men. We are the ones hurting more than anybody from 2008 crisis, 2001 crisis, 2008 crisis, this crisis, the lockdowns, drug addiction. We are the worst in America. So 2 things he won't bring up, which is the reason. Here are the 2 special cases. We have the most broken young men and the largest prison population. That is why we have the most gun violence. That's the reason. I'm sorry, those are the reasons. I shouldn't say that. Those are the reasons. But who's saying that besides me? Oh, wait. Oh, right. Nobody. Nobody. That's why you only hear it
and
here.
And our kids are not the only ones who watch movies and play violent video games. No, what sets us apart is the access to and inventory of guns.
Absolutely not true.
According to a 2015 study by Adam Langford, the professor at the University of Alabama, Americans make up about 4.4% of the global population, but own 42% of the world's guns.
Yes. And I would ask you, of all the mass shooters, what percentage of those are people who own legal guns? Clearly less than 20%, because most of them are gang violence. So while that's a nice stat you cherry-picked, does it really matter? Legal gun owners, I love it. They're not the ones doing the damage, are they? They're not. In fact, statistically, if you are a legal gun owner, you are less likely to commit a felony than someone who is not a legal gun owner. Again, not making that up. That's a fact. If we had more legal gun owners, we'd have less crime by default, because legal gun owners are less likely to commit a felony than people who are not legal gun owners. What about a prison population? You bring that one up? You didn't, did you? Yeah, I didn't think you did.
From 1966 to 2012, 31% of the gunmen in mass shootings worldwide were American.
Yep. And they were
adjusted for population, only Yemen has a higher rate of mass shootings among countries with more than 10 million people. Yemen has the world's second highest rate of gun ownership after the United States. And no, the answer is not to arm even more people.
Why not?
The answer is not a good guy with a gun.
Okay. The answer is literally a good guy with a gun. Let me be clear. Literally, he is absolutely wrong. What were they lacking? What were they lacking in Uvalde? Oh, right. Good men with guns. They had cowards with guns. Yes, I said it. Uvalde cops were cowards. They had cowards with guns. That's not good women with guns. That's cowards with guns. If you had good men with guns, which eventually, who went in eventually? It was the other group who came in saying, why are we standing around here when there's a guy in there shooting kids? Who stopped it? Oh, right, a good man with a gun. Who stopped the other guy? A soldier, the Q Club guy who stopped me. He was a soldier who was trained in firearms. I'm not making that up. He was a firearms trained soldier who understands guns and the range. And he also understood, by the way, this is going to be funny, he understood body armor and how to grab the handle on the back of body armor. That's how he got the guy. He knows that, those you don't know, body armor has a handle. Some of you who are military, you know that. Some of you don't. So he grabbed the handle and pulled the guy down. That's how he did that. So people trained in firearms or people with guns are the ones who stop it. Literally, when you get upset and things go wrong, you call the cop. What's it supposed to be? Supposed to be a good guy with a gun, right? In Uvalde, that's not the case. But in most cases, you call the good guy with a gun. He is literally wrong.
Last year, I spoke here about analysis from Texas State University's Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Center.
Yeah.
They looked at 433 active shooter attacks in the United States from 2000 to 2021.
There we go.
The data they reviewed found that most attacks were already over before law enforcement arrived.
Now, he is going to try to put up this is going to be great. He's going to put together a bunch of numbers to try to prove to you that good guy with a gun is bad. The exact opposite is going to happen. And the problem is he's talking to people who just hate guns and they just want to not have guns. So they will see anything that he says as, I'm right. That validates my preconceived notion. So they'll believe it. In reality, everything he's saying totally contradicts what he's saying. Watch, I'll cover it as we move down.
There were 433 active shooters in 2 decades.
There we go.
249 attacks ended before police arrived. In 185 of those.
So hold on. Over half were over before cops could get there. So wouldn't that be better if there was someone there with a gun already? Literally. He's wrong, literally, but it's fine. He keeps going. Then he goes,
The attacker left the scene or committed suicide. That leaves 64 cases. 42 times, the individual was subdued by a bystander. Think fight.
So hold on. 42 times attacked by a bystander. My assumption is most of the time, the person wasn't shot because he's saying think fight. So maybe that's true. Who knows? But what if more people had guns? Would that number go higher? The number go higher? Next part, when it comes to active shooter, are these long-winded gang fights that I've seen in New York City? People are shooting back and forth, reloading, firing back and forth. Is it that too? So you're not even saying if this is like a school shooting or a church shooting. It's just active shooting. In theory, most of this is gang violence, right? Or is it not? He hasn't said that. So this all could be gang violence.
In 22 cases was shot by a bystander, just 12 of them citizens.
Okay, so 12, I don't know what that means. 12, whatever. The point being is 22 were shot by a bystander. So does that mean the other 20 were just beat up by somebody? Is that what it is? What if more people had guns? And how many of these were gang related? And the point that the cops don't get there. So all of this data he just shows you and says, see, guns bad. I don't see what that is. I don't see how that even works. The reverse is true.
In other words, only 12 of 249 that ended before police arrived were due to a good guy with a gun.
Yes, because good guys don't have guns because of gun control.
No, arming everyone isn't an answer.
Okay, nobody ever said arming anyone. Be very clear. And let me just give you this real fast. Again, I do this because maybe I'm being a nudge. Maybe I am. It's possible I am. But this is me years ago on Glenn Beck. Years ago.
Unhappy kids doesn't mean gun restriction, right? If you take away all the guns, the kids still want to kill. The kids are still unhappy. You haven't solved the problem.
That's what you're seeing in Great Britain.
Yes, knives. Yes, knives. And this is what I hear all the time. Larry, you're cruel because if they have a gun, then they'll kill more people. So wait, I'm the cruel guy. I don't want them killing at all. You're okay with them killing. You just care what weapon they use. But I'm the cruel guy? No, I don't want them killing each other. Period.
It's like saying you can't sell explosives because someone might blow up a building. Well, they couldn't buy explosives. They used a plane.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Now, the reason why I bring that piece up is because I was talking about this. This was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I was talking about this. I was already saying this, that the idea is unhappy kids. And you can't just stop. And back then, so remember this, prior to COVID, this is before COVID, London had a higher murder rate than New York City did. So you don't know that. That's true. That's why he brought that up. Because I don't know if that's still true today. I don't know. This is several years ago. London had a higher murder rate than New York had. And there's supposedly no guns in London. And more people being murdered by knives. It was a popular meme where they were arresting a guy right above a knife victim. He was over a knife victim he just killed. And on the wall was an anti-knife poster. That happened in London several years ago. And that's how bad it was. This is the part that drives me nuts, right? So let me now go one more if I could. Again, I'll make sure I got the receipts. I got the receipts here. Hold on. This is me. This is me on Rogan 4 years ago.
Thing only. And that is if you are a licensed, if you're licensed and you have a permit to carry a firearm, if you want to in school, you may. If you're a teacher or an administrator, if you want to, you may. That's it. You don't have to force a teacher to carry. You don't need a resource.
And I brought it up because he said arm everybody. I never said arm everybody. No one I know has ever said that. Everybody's got to have a gun. No, let people who want to carry a firearm carry a firearm. If you don't like guns or you feel they're unsafe or you don't trust yourself with a gun around kids or whatever is your issue, please don't carry a firearm. I'm not forcing you. You do you. If you think it's the right answer for your protection, for your body, for your family, then carry a firearm if you see fit. If you don't, then don't. You guys know me. I am you do you. If you're afraid of guns, don't like guns, please don't buy one. Of course not. Why would I want you to do something you don't want to do? But there are people who would like to, who feel it's the right answer. Why won't we let them? Why won't we allow them to do that? Now, let me go one step further if I could here. Yeah. Let's see if I can find it here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that one. Hold on. Here we go. This part here is what I've been talking about again. Again, another Rogan piece.
People understand that at its core, most mass shootings are public suicides. They would understand that. It's true. It's like death by cop.
4 years ago,
right?
Death by cop.
Public suicide. So you have to make sure you have happier people, right? But then why do they choose schools? Several reasons. One, because that's where their assumed enemies are, right? The incels think that the bad guys and the bad girls are there. But something.
And I brought this up. I talked about incels 4 years ago. Their assumed enemies are there. Yes. It looks like, we don't know for sure, but that the Q Club shooter in Colorado, that he was part of that community, and his family was so against him being part of that community that he saw them having happiness, and he was saying to himself, why do you guys get happiness? Why do you guys do it? And he went there and he killed them because he thought those are the bad people who were having happiness when he wasn't. It was jealousy. That's what it looks like now. We'll see if I'm right. But if you remember, I said that early on. I didn't assume what everyone did assume, which was, oh my God, this is, immediately anti-gay, attacks. It may have been a hate crime, but we didn't know that. It may not be. Now, the Buffalo shooter was clearly a hate crime, the top shooter. Clearly a hate crime. White guy wanted to kill black people, said his manifesto. Clearly it was. What about the guy who shot the football team when he got kicked off the football team? Came in and shot his enemies, the bad guys. Each of them was people who thought those are the people who were the enemy. And they went to where they thought those are the bad people, and they went to kill them. It was jealousy or revenge. The Walmart worker, he was unhappy with his co-workers and such. And he supposedly, according to what people say so far, he picked out certain people he wanted to kill. So there were people he was mad at. What's the common denominator? It's racism. No. Sexism. No. Homophobia. No. It's broken young men. I don't know how many times I have to say this. It's broken young men. And what was my answer? It was to fix the entire system. Man, is that hard. Man, is that hard. But I argue with Joe Rogan. For those of you who saw my Joe Rogan, I argued him a bit. And I was like, look, I said, they don't want to fix this. He said disagrees. And I pushed back and I said, no, if they wanted to fix it, they would. I gave you an answer to repair this 4 years ago. I spoke about it on multiple occasions. I had the answers on my website for 5 years. But no one paid attention to it. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to. And that's the part that is the hardest for me to hear often, is that people go, well, Larry, you're not a Democrat Republican, so we can't listen to you, or you don't care, or whatever.
Now, I'm not advocating for surrender. If mass shootings are part of what we become, I don't think we stop trying. But maybe we need to sharpen our focus.
Yep.
Continue to grieve and mourn the dead, of course. And enhance security, harden targets like schools and workplaces and where we gather in large numbers.
So what he's saying is harden them. What does he mean by harden them? He means give more cops guns? Or they didn't want to arm everybody. How do you harden them? With more surveillance cameras? I'm sure China would love that. What does he mean by harden?
Give law enforcement the Apple, Meta, Google level of technology that it.
Give law enforcement, do you hear what he just said? Give law enforcement the Apple, Google, Meta form of technology. So allow the government to spy on us like Apple, Google, Meta does. He's okay with that. He's literally saying, don't give individuals the right to defend themselves. That would be bad. Instead, give government, literally just give them the ability to spy on us and to create an actual police state. That's what Michael Smerconish just said. And again, I want to be clear. This guy is middle of the road when it comes to Democrat. He is not a left-wing Democrat, right? To be clear, when it comes to Democrats, he's not left-wing at all. And he's like, you know what the answer is? Because I'm scared, police state. Totally okay with it. Just said it.
It needs to improve background checks that are accurate and instantaneous. Restrict as much weapon access as a post-Heller decision will permit.
Take away the guns.
And elect presidents who will appoint Supreme Court justices who don't think the Second Amendment reference to a well-regulated militia extends beyond militias. All the while.
So literally what he's saying, to be clear, and this is why I wanted some of you who get mad at me when I deal with guns, how I talk about it. I wanted you to hear this. He literally said, yes, the answer is work towards repealing the Second Amendment so that no one can have guns, except for government. Work towards that. But until we get there, a police state is probably the right answer. And let's make sure we elect people who will eventually ensure that our police state takes away all the guns and disarms all the citizens. Now, I want you to be clear. I'm not making that up. You just heard him say that. And he's positive. This is the right answer. I think police state to eventually disarm the citizenry is the right answer for America. He's actually telling us to basically become China.
Hoping that if Heller is overturned, Congress will have the courage to seize the moment. And at the same time, and in the meantime, we lead our lives.
Yeah, that part right there is what drove me absolutely crazy. He literally is okay with the police state. He's totally fine with it. And everyone's like, yeah, that makes total sense. But why do we not care about it? We don't care about it because we are told that the answer is racism or sexism or homophobia or whatever the thing is. It's not that. For any individual, it may be, right? There may be an individual who goes in and kills people because he's a racist or a homophobe, or that could happen. But that isn't the common denominator. That's an excuse that young, broken man used to do his evil. He made an excuse. Oh, it's because of the gays, or it's because of the black people, or it's because of the whatever, right? He made an excuse to try to validate his horrible behavior. But that excuse isn't the issue. He will find an answer either way. If you could magically get rid of racism tomorrow, I mean, that'd be awesome. If you could, then he'd be a homophobe. If you got rid of homophobia, then he'd be, I don't know, a germaphobe, but these people are too dirty, or whatever. He'd find the thing, an excuse to hate the people, because that's what he's doing, because he hates himself. This part, I have to keep going down the road so that people actually understand this. It does matter. It's not homophobia. It's not that. And here's why people on the right and the left don't talk about this. The right does it because it still thinks the Constitution matters. It does, but not to some of these people. It doesn't to some of the right people. You heard him say it. And again, I'll be clear again. He's not a left-wing nut. He's a very mainstream Democrat as far as Democrats go, right? He doesn't do this usually, but he's all on board, right? Totally. Now, I'm going to give you a little piece from this one was from MSNBC and talking about an issue, which I think is an important issue, but I misses the mark completely, right? It's a woman talking about the Q shooting, the Q Club shooting.
I think fear is at the root of it all, fear and power. And at the end of the day, what we are seeing is an extremist minority of people who are trying to push their viewpoints on everyone.
And my worry about this thought process, are there people who are homophobes? Of course they exist. Absolutely. Of course they do. But the vast majority of Americans, Republicans too, homosexuality is not a thing for the vast majority of people. Just most Americans. There are some, don't get me wrong. I don't want to say that it doesn't exist. It does. Is there a transphobe? There is, absolutely. But for the vast amount of Americans, it doesn't matter. So why would you want to act as if it's destroying everything? What these two women talked about was the idea of destroying safe spaces and such. It's simply not true. It's a story that makes you want to hate the other more. And if you hate the other more, you make
end of the day,
worse.
The issue of the livelihood of LGBTQ plus people is beyond politic. It's beyond party. It is beyond where you live.
They're saying hate on the rise, right? While that's true, it's not what they're saying. They're acting like there are more people now hating gay people and trans people. That is demonstrably false. That is not true. Now, is hate on the rise? It is. Hatred of ourselves, young men who hate themselves and find excuses to burn other people down as they burn themselves down. That's accurate. But you do not, it is not that more people are hating gay people. That's simply not accurate. And she's gonna contradict herself right now. Watch it.
80% of folks in this country support non-discrimination policies for LGBTQ plus people. Over 70% support same-sex marriage equality in this country. The folks that are pushing this rhetoric and pushing this violent, cruel language are out of step with where people are. And they're
so hate is not on the rise. That's my point. She just contradicts. It's not. The issue is there are people who hate themselves who are finding reasons to include anti-trans or anti-black or whatever. If all of a sudden all transphobia went away tomorrow, then they'd be anti-black or anti-immigrant or anti-insert thing here. They will find a reason because they hate themselves. This is the critical piece I want to bring up. Please don't believe this rhetoric and realize that this is public suicide. They aren't trying to kill all the gay people or kill all the black people. That isn't what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is kill themselves, and it's working. They're trying to find an excuse or a reason to do so, and it's working. So please don't buy that rhetoric. The rhetoric is they are trying to hurt themselves, and it's working, right? There's one last piece, if I could bring this last piece if I can. I got to find it real fast. Let me grab some of your comments. So many of you have been commenting. I appreciate the comments you've been dealing with. But there is, if I can find, Smerconish goes on to say one thing that he brings up, which just absolutely drives me crazy that he would actually bring it up. He talks to this guy here, and he's talking about men and boys. Now, in the same show, he does this. So it's almost like he knew, like he wanted to drive me crazy because it worked. I'm doing this. So Michael Smerconish, if you happen to be watching and you were like, you know what? I'm going to do a show that will drive Larry Sharpe crazy. Well done. You have succeeded because it did.
Why are men and boys struggling? And what should we do about it? The Atlantic magazine recently asked that of its readers and evoked a record number of responses. The discussion was inspired by statistics from the new book by my next guest, Richard Reeves.
I read the book, by the way.
In the U.S., the 2020 decline in college enrollment was 7 times greater for male than for female students. Among men with only a high school education, 1 in 3 is out of the labor force. For those who have a job, typical earnings are $881 a week, down from $1,017 a week in 1979.
Yep.
Mortality from drug overdose, suicide, and alcohol-related illnesses are almost 3 times higher among men than women.
We are destroying our men. And here's the thing I want to bring up here, and some of you will be upset about this, but I don't care. You should hear anyway. There's a lot of black people now looking at this going, where you been? Where you been? This has been the black community since the 80s, if not 90s, 80s and 90s. It's been a black community since, yeah. The drug overdoses and the people getting arrested and women not finding men. Yeah. You guys better know this. If you're a black woman, there's only a 50% chance you're going to get married. 50%. Are you telling me that 50% of black women don't want to be married? No. Some women don't want to be married. I agree. 100%. Some don't. But 50%? Of course not. Of course not. Yeah. Now in America, across America now, it is rare. You are now less than 50%. A family that raises children in a household, the whole kid's lifetime, the kid's lifetime up to 18, in a household that has both biological parents in that household. That is now the minority. Where you been? Where you been? So yeah, I'm a little bit bitter on that one. I am, but I watched it happen in my community and many black communities years ago. We saw that happen. Now it's happening all over the place. Now black boys who've been hammered, and 1/3 of them in the prison system. Now across the country, 1/3 of black men without high school diplomas aren't in the workforce. How are you going to find a wife? How's a woman going to find a man? How are you going to find it?
Just a tip of the iceberg of the alarming findings in Reeves' book, which is called Of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling and Why It Matters and What to Do About It. Richard Reeves joins me now. He's a senior.
So he literally has a plan. I'm going to go through the whole thing, but he has an actual plan. This guy talks about it. He discusses his entire plan. Part of it's schooling, which was my plan. Part of it's trade schools, which was my plan. It's giving everything I talked about 5 years ago. Everything about 5 years ago that I talked about, he now has in his book. I was talking about this 5 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, he's right. It's fine. Give him the credit. He's a smart guy. He gets credit. It's all good. But the point is, the point is, men are in trouble, and it matters. Men are in trouble. Why does it matter? Because when young men have nothing to lose, they murder our children. That is a fact. You see it. That's what's happening. But more importantly, you might say, well, Larry, I don't have any children. Maybe you don't. Okay, good. If you're a woman, how are you going to find a husband? Oh, if you're a gay man, I shouldn't just say that. We're gay men. How are you going to find a spouse? How are you going to find a partner? When 1/3 of the non-college educated men are in the workforce. If they're black, 1/3 of them are in the prison system. How are you going to do that? You're going to have a China problem again, right? The reverse, though. China's got too many men, not enough women. We're going to have too many women, not enough men. Why do you think you have all these Giga Chads? I'm not joking. Why do you have all these guys, the Andrew Tates of the world, who can go around with 4, 5, 6 women all around them? There's no men. So yeah, if you're the one guy who happens to be the cool guy, you get all the women you want. They're all chasing you. Yeah, you're the Giga Chad, right? That's the whole issue, isn't it? It is insane that we have this. So hold on. Let me see if I can grab this here. Let me grab the next piece. He brings the election, right? He brings the election piece up. Let me grab this real fast.
We just had a very contentious midterm election. I have no recollection of any candidate, Republican, Democratic, Independent, championing the cause that you are raising. Why is?
Because you didn't pay attention. That's the reason. I was the one talking about men being beat up in family law 5 years ago. I was the one talking about changing the school system to support men going to trade school 5 years ago. I was doing it because you and your ilk ignored me for 5 years. That's why you didn't hear it. But here's the worst part. Many of your people knew I was saying it. They didn't want to hear me. They didn't want to hear me. That's the reason. And sadly, while this guy is brilliant, right? I mean, Richard Reeves is brilliant. This guy's name is Richard Reeves. I read his book. He's brilliant. They're not going to hear him either. Because that would mean you have to change everything, which is what I've been talking about. Fundamental change. I've been talking about it for 5 years. There was someone talking about it. His name was Larry Sharp, but you didn't want to hear it. And I got the receipts. And I said it on Joe Rogan. Like I just said it in my own room. I said it when in my kitchen and told my wife, I do, and she's probably heard enough of it more than none of you have heard of it. But I said it on Joe Rogan. I said it on Dave Rubin. I said it on Glenn Beck. I said it in a debate. I spent my time talking about changing the entire system in a debate, an official debate in New York State. So I was talking about it. I was. And nobody wanted to hear it. Nobody wanted to hear it. So it's not me. It's not me. Let me grab some of this. Larry says, where do all the real men go? Well, that's a funny piece, right? The problem is, as we're punishing, for those of you who've had children in your life, whether it's a child, grandchild, niece, nephew, godchild, whatever, if you had a kid in your life, and you watch that kid begin to do something, right? Walk for the first time, read, whatever's the thing the kid's trying to do. When a kid first tries to read or walk, whatever it is, they mess up, right? It's the first time. They mess up reading the word, or they mess up walk, they fall down. What do? Yell at them? I sure hope not. Or they go, oh, nice, you did a good job. Get back up, try again, read the next word, whatever. You encourage them. You give them value for what they've done, and you move forward. We don't do that with our men. When our men mess up, we punish them more, to the point where they believe they can't win no matter what. If I can't win no matter what, why bother? That's where all the real men went. They're not being nurtured at all. We are spending a lot of time nurturing women, and we should. And this is his point in the book. To be clear, it's not about hurting women. It is not. And look, I have daughters. I understand women are doing well. Some of you may not know this. For people under 30 in America, there's no wage gap. Let me repeat that so you hear that. If you're under 30 in America, there's no wage gap. It's gone. Yes. In fact, many women make far more than men. Yes. Under 30. Under 30. Over there, that changes. Under 30. So we're already there. Like we're at a point already to where it's working. So now what are you going to say? Well, now what do we do? Well, what do I hear from everybody? The patriarchy, destroying America, destroying women, crushing women, crushing women. Whatever we've been doing is working. More women graduate from college than men. More women have high degrees than men. I've been saying this for years. I've been saying the talent's on the women. I'm a guy who hires and fires, and I see it. The talent's in the women. They say the future is female. They're right. I don't mean to be, I'm not trying to diss men. I'm just being forward. If you're looking for talented, educated people, it's women. How do we know? Recently, within the professional management class, female women, it's been a baby boom. Yes. Of the one good thing, I mean, there's a couple positive things out of the COVID lockdowns. Most of them were terrible. But one of the things that was good is many professional management women were able to work from home. And when you allow women to work from home, they said, you know what? If I can make my money, still be a manager and work from home, be with my kid, I'll get pregnant. Turns out most women want to have babies. Obviously not all, but most women do want to have children. Good for them. They were able to do so. So good for them. That's awesome. How does a man feel now? What he brings up in the book is something else. And that is the idea of men changing how they parent, men changing how they deal in the family. And that's been difficult for men to deal with because we still have our cultural issues that go, man must do X, Y, Z. Well, maybe man shouldn't do X, Y, Z, right? But they're still there. So what happens when I can't do X, Y, Z, or when women expect me to do X, Y, Z, and I can't? I feel like I'm a loser. And when that happens, I lose that woman, or I lose that relationship, whatever. It's a problem. So yes. So Logic says, maybe if society wouldn't villainize masculinity and beat boys men over the head with toxic masculinity, maybe men would be doing it better. He brings this up. He does. Thank you for that, Logic. He brings it up. He says the idea that we have broken the phrase toxic masculinity, and we've used it now for anything masculine. So you're basically telling boys that being a boy is bad. He does bring that up, that you should be using the phrase toxic masculinity for actual toxic negative masculinity. But if two boys want to roughhouse and hit each over the head, that's not toxic. And sadly, most people say, that's toxic, they should be fighting. That's if you believe that, you don't understand humans. That's how it works. Boys want to beat each other over the head. That's what happens. They push each other, shove each other, they fight. It's what they do. And that's not going to change because you don't like it. And that's not toxic. It is not toxic. Now, if they're physically hurting people, grabbing people's hair, that's different. But then that will be labeled as toxic. But that's not happening. I know you're going to tell me this. That doesn't happen in schools. Yes, it does. I have 2 kids who just came out of public school. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm in New York City. Yes, it does. They will literally suspend a kid for fighting back against the bully. I'm not joking. And if you want to say it doesn't happen, you're full of shit. That's exactly what happens. They will suspend a kid. So some bully's beating up a kid. The other kid says, stop it, and punch him back. That kid gets suspended. The kid who stopped the bully gets suspended. That happens in New York City every single week. That's happening. New York City has a million kids every day. That's happening. That's how it works. So you are correct. They are making everything that is masculine toxic when it's simply not true. They're, again, to be clear, toxic masculinity does exist. It is a thing. It's just nowhere near what they're saying it is. Nowhere near. It's totally out of this. Yes. So Paula says, hate is not on the rise of self-hatred. Yes. In young, lost black, white, and brown men who seek to destroy anything to combat their isolation and despair. Paula, you are 100% correct. Right? Very often, women are more likely to turn it inward. Men are more likely to punish outward. Right? That's not 100% rule, obviously, but it's common. I mean, the mass shooters aren't women. They're men, and they're young men all over the place. They're young men doing it all the time. Absolutely. Christine says, maybe he got the idea from you. I wish he did, Christine. That'd be awesome. I should say that. I like that. I'm like, yeah, it's my book. I just let him write it. I should do that. That's awesome. I love that. That's very good. I like using that. That is good. So yes. Thomas says, Larry Sharp, the most shadow banned in America. I love that. I hope that's true. Yes. That's actually funny. So yes. And then Dave was going to say, that's exactly what he's saying. Yes. He is saying he thinks a police state in America like China is a good thing. That's what he's saying, Dave. You are correct. And he's okay with it. He thinks it's totally fine. Yes. So I'm right here. So I can do this right here. James says, most Democrats in Western Central Upstate New York are two-way supporters. Yes. If these also put on the back of the ballot, they would never pass. They won't do it. Yeah. It's a good point. Jimmy, you're right. New York State doesn't have two things which it should have. Number one is it should have the ability to replace and recall elected officials like mayors, DAs, things like that. That should be a thing that we're able. We don't like our mayor, we don't like our DA, we should be able to recall them. California has that, and that's not a bad deal. I mean, maybe we don't follow exactly California's rules. We could maybe find a better way of doing it, but we should. That's number one. Number two, we should follow California the second way. I hate to say we're following California, Jim. And most things I don't want to follow California, but in two things I do. And the second thing is ballot initiatives. We should spend more time. It should be easier to put a ballot initiative on the ballot. And if we did that, we could probably repeal the SAFE Act. We probably could with the right ballot initiative. We probably could. So yes, I agree with you 100%. So, all right. Let's see here. John says, this isn't a Second Amendment issue. It's a cultural thing. Children are taught to accept failures. I'm not sure where you're going with that one. What do you mean by accept failures? Except they are failures? I'm not sure what that is. You got to help me on that one, John. I'm not sure what you're going with that one. So, all right. Caleb says, Brad Palumbo had a good point on this clip as well, Larry. Most pistols themselves are semi-automatic, so it's assertion as well. Yeah, no. I think they would want to do that. I think if they had their way, Caleb, I think they would literally say, all you can have if you're a civilian is maybe a shotgun or revolver. I think they would literally do that, right? And a non-semi-automatic shotgun, right? Only pump, right? Just the pump shotgun and just a revolver. I think they probably would do that. I think he wants that. I think he would want to do that. So yes. Christine goes on to say, let's disarm the public so we can protect them. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And it sounds like, let's ban cars and knives. I don't know if you know this, but there was actually somebody trying I think it was in London, who was trying to actually register knives. He just wanted common sense knife control, Sam. It didn't pass, but it was actually someone talking about that. Yes, absolutely. And Christine goes on to say, unhappy people kill. Yes. It's exactly right. Unhappy people do unhappy things. Desperate people do. I want you, if you could, if you're watching this or listening to this, think to yourself, what would it take for you specifically, to plan to murder a bunch of people? What would it take for you to do that? And then carried out. Like, think about, I mean, we all think about it sometimes, I'm sure, but actually plan it and go, I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to kill these people. I'm going to use this weapon on this date. And then you get in your car or your bike or you walk or whatever, you go there and you do it. And you know, end of your life. Either you're getting shot by the cops or a bystander if you live in certain states, or you're going to shoot yourself, or you're going to jail for the rest of your life, right? No matter what. You're going to jail the rest of your life, no matter what, or you're dead. What would it take for you to actually go through with that? How much pain or despair would you have to be in to do that? I have thought of this concept in my mind. How much pain would I have to have? How much despair would I have to have? And I think the hardest part is what would hold me back, no matter what I was thinking, is I have a family and friends. I have people like you guys who listen to me and talk to me and are in my world. Many of you I've met personally, right? I have them to look forward to. So why would I do that? I would have to lose everything. I would lose all of you, my family, my friends, my children. I'd have to lose everything. And if I lost everything and I could blame somebody for losing everything, I might. In that case, I might. But unless I had lost everything and in my mind could justify a group of people who took everything from me, if I could justify that in my head somehow, and if I was by myself in despair online, I'm sure I'd find some chat room that would explain exactly who the evil people are that took my stuff away. Then maybe I'd do it. That's where these men are. You can be mad at them if you want to, call them names if you want to, want to put them in jail or pass laws if you want to. But as you pass more laws, the SAFE Act as one of them, as you continue to isolate them and don't talk to them and insult them and call them racist and call them homophobic and call them names, you literally create more of them. Let me say it again so you hear what I'm saying. As you call them names and isolate them and punish them and arrest them, you create more of them, because suicide is contagious. I'm not making that up either. That's a fact. It's contagious. These shootings are contagious. So why don't we stop doing that? It's what I've been saying for years. Dave says, mental health should be discussed. Red flag law is not going to be effective if you take weapons away. Someone deemed a danger to themselves, so others do not get them the help they might need. Thank you, Dave. They don't. And here's the worst part. In Colorado, they had red flag laws. And that guy was already flagged. What happened? Nothing. Red flag laws don't work. I've been saying it forever. New York State, red flag laws. Buffalo shooter. He was flagged. Didn't work. Red flag laws don't work. They don't work. We know this already. SAFE Act doesn't work. Red flag laws don't work. We know this. But all we do is go more, more, more. And it just makes things worse. It just makes things worse. Not worst. Sorry. Worse. Yes. So, all righty. So I can go here. James says, wait, can't communities create militias as well to defend their communities? In certain states, James, it's realistic. In certain states, it's not. So it depends on where you live, right? Not easy. There are a couple of militias in New York State, but there aren't that many. The problem is militias also get a terrible bad social rap. So our militia was supposed to be our National Guard, but that went away. So you could, yes, but wouldn't you rather have a state militia if you could? Wouldn't it be a better thing if you could? Be better if you could have one. Local units would be better if you could, but yes. So it depends on your state, basically. So yes. And Phil goes, thank you, Phil, for this. The Save Our Guard movement to return the National Guard to its states is heroic. Thank you. Yes, Phil, of course, thinking 100%. That's the Save Our Guard piece, is the idea of giving the Guard back to the states. Right now, it's basically been federalized. So yes, I think that's a good idea, 100%. So Christine says, I wonder how that story is going to impact Lisa Ling's career. Criticism of the state will not be tolerated. Well, she doesn't criticize the state, right? She doesn't. She says like, well, it's COVID and that. She doesn't say the actual thing, which is the lockdowns. So she covers herself well enough. But yes, if for those of you who care, who like Lisa Ling, her it's This Is Life, and it's on CNN. And she just recently did, I think it was yesterday before, and it was all about people who were lonely. There were women too. It wasn't just men, but she was talking about the idea of men being more men than women, men being lonely. And it was a young 18-year-old guy who had literally, he's 18. he had never asked a girl out. Never done it. And she pushed him to do it, and he did it in the virtual world, not in reality. He asked the girl out in the virtual world, not in reality, because he couldn't get the courage to meet the girl in person. Now, if you're a woman, and you tell me if I'm wrong here, I want to go to your woman. If you're attracted to men, I don't care if you're a woman or a man, you're attracted to men, and the man doesn't have enough confidence to talk to you, do you want to date that man? I bet a lot of people would say no. A lot would say no. So now you see the one guy who's a jerk, who's got tons of confidence, got confidence all over the place. Top G, that guy is all over doing all kind of stuff. That hardcore guy. You go, well, at least he'll ask me out, and you go out with him because no one else is asking you out because they're all afraid to ask out. And you might go, well, I'll ask him out. Well, yeah, you're not going to find him. He doesn't go out. He doesn't go out to be found. So if you think, well, I'll go ask a guy out. He's not there. Where's the guy to ask out? You can't find him. He's in his house with his VR set on. He's playing on his computer. Or he's talking literally to his I'm not making it, his handheld, device friend. That's who he's talking to. Yes. It's crazy. Christine goes on to say, the left wipes their feet in the Constitution. Sadly, too often. Yes, absolutely. So, all righty. That's good. Let's see here. Grab a couple more. If I can here. Depression too. Yes, depression is a big deal. I cannot tell you how horrible depression is. It devastates you. It puts you into a spot. For those who've been in depression, you know what I'm talking about. It puts you into a spot where you are clearly not thinking. You're not thinking, right? You are just in a world where you're not really thinking. Your mind is going to place it shouldn't go. Things that don't make sense to you. And when you look back, for those of you who've been able to pull yourself out of depression, you look back how you thought, you're like, wow, I thought that. Where the hell was my head? It was nowhere. Depression's deadly. Not always deadly. Depression is crippling. It really is crippling. It can really put you under. So he goes, my show 214 Parkland is your best of. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Yes. I talk about it even after. You're not going to see me walk away from this. Some people you don't like. Some of you don't like it, but I still do it anyway. I see people sometimes get off like, oh, I'm done this guy. But yes, 100%. I talk about it always, no matter what. So Philip says, I lived through a school shooting. Oh, I didn't know that. Assault rifles were illegal when it happened. His depression and loneliness were the worst part. He wasn't allowed to buy a gun. His mother was a straw purchaser. Everyone who lives through it disagrees on what caused it, but quick confrontation ended it quickly. So a good guy with something stopped it. Thank you, Phil. Yes, I didn't realize that happened to you, brother. I'm glad you got around it. But yes, depression and loneliness. Yes, that's my point. Patty says, I was at a cannabis club open mic here the other night and looked around the room. People of every age, race, sexual identity, and walk of life were there. An amazing mix of people all laughing and supporting each other. I realized it was the middle of the perfect target. Ooh, Patty. Wow, that's where we are. I hate that you think that, but I understand why you do. Right? I do understand why you do. I realized I was in the middle of the perfect target and yes, had a moment of fear, almost panic, but stayed. Such a scary time we live in. So a time where those I know give me hope for a more understanding and supportive future. I can only hope. I would hope that I would hope that in a place like that, there'd be enough people who would have the legacy or maybe the reputation of being accepting. And that when that kid, and it's almost always going to be a young male, feels like he's a nobody or a loser or whatever, that they would go to your cannabis club first before there's anything bad and kind of spot it out, right? They usually go there and kind of, case the joint. I would hope when he goes to case the joint, somebody like you, Patty, would see him and invite him in. And if you invited him in and people befriended him in any way, even one friend, some of these people literally have no friends. And when I say no, I mean none. No one they can call, no one they can talk to, no friends, zero. So if he just had one friend, someone would just say, hey, man, how you doing? One guy, one gal, hey, how you doing? And you could save him. I know it sounds crazy, but Patty, you've heard me say this before. You never know when you have someone who's in trouble. If it's the first I love you, the 15th I love you, the 400th I love you, which one's going to be the one that brings that person back and says, you know what, I'm ready to try to change. I want to get back into the world. I don't know which one it is. For someone like that, it's probably the first one. It probably only takes one. It takes one person to go, I got you. Come on in. Oh my God, I have a friend. You got a friend. We don't got to be besties, but you know what? If you need to come by Saturday night and hang out with us, do an open mic with us. We'll sit back and we'll smoke a little weed and hang out. Whatever. You could, local community, and I know it sounds so trite. I know it does, but I say it all the time. Local community can literally save lives. And I mean that. That's not just something I'm saying. Local community can literally save lives. Most of these people live in a home or a house or a building. They don't know any of their neighbors. They know nobody. They know nothing. Yeah. So anyway, I know I kind of went down the road. I apologize. So yes. Josh says, nuance and deep issues aren't a great meme or soundbite from modern dialogue, though. You are right. Yes, you are right. Scott says, bullies grow up to become corrupt politicians. Yes. Michael says, religion influences men. It teaches that women should be submissive to men and the wives should be submissive to their husbands because husbands are appointed priests of the househood, and that's a judge problem for men. I think you mean huge problem for men. Yes, I think you're right. That is a problem, right? If you feel that you're supposed to be this thing and you can't be this thing, I think you're right, Michael. People get upset, right? If I'm supposed to be this priest of my household, and I believe this to be true, and I think that I've got to be this powerful priest of my household and lead my family with an iron fist or whatever I believe, and I can't do that or fail to do that, I think you're right. It is a huge problem. You now have to, as that male, shift in your mind whatever role that you want to be or what that priest role means, right? I mean, does the priest role mean I have to rule my hood with my household with an iron fist? Or does it mean I just need to be someone who you can lean on like a pastor, right? I mean, I think you'd have to change that. And to be forward with you, we don't have enough men to coach young men into making that shift because not all men can be that. I mean, some men could. Somebody could jump right in, be that in a heartbeat, and want to be that and can be that. And some women want that, and they want that in a man, and they get it. Good for them. But some don't. Some can't do it. Some women don't want it. Then how do you shift and adjust? And it's hard. I think that we need to have more people having open conversations. And since we were already struggling to have these conversations already, but I think the lockdowns made it even harder. It's one of the reasons I know my team has gotten mad at me many times about this. Because my team has been asking me, and you can imagine why. I'm one of the rare guys who does this. Most people who do these types of shows don't take live comments and don't do it live. It's cheaper and easier if you just do a bunch of shows, tape them, and put them out whenever you want. It is. It's easier and cheaper. 100% is. It's faster. All those things. But I felt like I did this when I ran for office because I felt it was wrong for someone to run for office and ask for your support and ask for you to believe me and trust me and then not be accessible. It felt wrong to run for office and do this. And I've been doing it since I've been running for office. But now I just keep doing it because I want people to know that I'm accessible, that I'm human, that I screw up and say bad things and do bad things and whatever. Because if there's going to be any kind of relationship between many of us, and many of you I've met, right? If I go out to events, many of you just show up at an event, meet me, right? So I appreciate it. Some of you have literally driven me around in your cars. So thank you for those of you who have. But to your point, I hope that someone like me and our community, people have met their boyfriends and girlfriends and husbands and wives through our community. That's happened too. We've recently lost someone who was a member of community. Sorry. Just this weekend, we lost somebody. That's the point. But I hope this community can help to make that work, can help to bring people together and have those conversations. Michael, if you're having that issue, what does a priest mean to you, right? I hope we can make that happen. I hope we can do that. So anyway, yes. All right. Dave says they used to suspend both the bully and the victim when I was in school. That's done sometimes too. Yes, that's sometimes also true. But no matter what, you can't fight back. You have to accept being bullied. Yes, absolutely. So Jimmy says, I was suspended for fighting bullies a lot. Yep. I had a younger sister. I told admin 3 times and told them I'll take care of it after that. They didn't listen until bullies needed stitches. Brother, I'm with you. It's funny. I'll tell you a quick story. My oldest daughter also almost got suspended for fighting back from a bully. She scolded him publicly and got mad and did nasty text. She fought right back. She did not take it at all. So they brought me in with her and said, you know what? Usually we suspend her for this. And I said, for what? You know, she can't fight back from bully. I said, you're going to suspend her for fighting back the bully, the kid who's been suspended more than once for being a bully. He was like, yes. I said, great, suspend her. I said, I'll take her out for ice cream. Great, we'll have a great day off. He's like, what? I said, yeah, suspend her. It's fine. I literally told him that. I said, suspend her, please. I'll take her out. We'll have a great day. I will reward her for her amazing activity. Thanks for the day off. He was like, wow, you know, we probably won't this time. I'm like, I don't care. What do I care? Right? The lesson that you learned, Jimmy, in defending your younger sister, which was exactly the right move, is the same lesson I wanted my daughter to learn, which is don't bend down to bullies. Right? So the lesson is far more valuable than you being suspended. And from my daughter being suspended. I mean, they didn't suspend her, I guess, but they didn't. But I didn't care. I think you're right. The lesson learned is far more important than losing a day of school or being on your permanent record, as if that matters. That's a lie. It doesn't matter. You'll be suspended on your permanent record and nobody cares. But besides the point, Jimmy, I agree with you completely. Yes. So, yes. All right. I'm going to grab a couple more if I can. Patty says, my son was 12 and stopped one kid from picking on another by placing himself between the two and separating them. He was suspended for 3 days for involving himself in that fight. He lived like a king for 3 days because I was not punished for the right thing. Thank you, Patty. You and I. See that? Seeing eye to eye. Well done. Me, you, and Jimmy. We got it down. It's exactly the right answer. But here's the problem. This goes back kind of what Michael was saying. Michael was about religion, which I see if you're religious, how you could see that. But this is school. It's another form of religion. But anyway, it's not the religion Michael was talking about. It's still a form. But this is indoctrination. You are teaching our children to be compliant. And I'm glad that we have some parents like me and you, Patty, saying, no, don't be compliant. It's a good thing that you stopped the bully. It's a good thing that you stood up. That's a good thing. Well done. Because then what happens? We don't care about that guy or that gal until all of a sudden there's a shooter. And now that soldier who was taught don't put up with the bully, put that guy down in Club Q. Then all of a sudden he's a hero. But that's the guy who got suspended in school. That's Jimmy who got suspended in school. That's Jimmy who got suspended in school. But Jimmy would have put that guy down. He probably wouldn't have grabbed him. Jimmy would have used another tool. I'm not going to say what tool he would have used. But he would have used a tool, and he'd have put that guy down. I completely agree. Yes. Absolutely. John goes, okay, 2 points of being failure. In school, being exceptional is repressed. Most primary school students, 70% think climate change is the biggest issue. No future is taught. Oh, thank you, John. That is clear. I think you're correct. Thank you for clarifying that. I think you're right. Yes. Like it's too late. It's over. Yeah, I think that's right. Thank you for that, John. Yes. All right. All right. Dave goes, Larry, it's not your fault. The fat guy standing next to you got fat by taking all the pie and leaving you with the crumbs. He's laughing at you right now. That's how it works. Oh. Okay. I like that. That's good. So Scott says assault rifle was a backronym from AR, which stands for armor light. Oh, yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the assault rifle. But there's also a translation, Scott. If I'm not mistaken, it was either German or it was Russian. I forgot. There was also a translation. I think it was German. But after World War II was when the assault rifle was made. It wasn't a regular rifle that they had since World War I. They made a specialized rifle, which was an assault rifle. And I think it was also a translation from German or Russian. I'm not remember. I don't. Anyway, but it was also a translation piece that also came across in English as assault weapon or assault rifle. And then the AR was just perfect. So yes, but it was those two pieces together that made AR be the assault rifle or assault weapon. I forgot which one it is. I think it's German, assault weapon. Anyway, I'm sure someone will check me. Will check me. I think it's one of those two. I'm pretty sure it's one of those two. Yes. So, all righty. Alice says, my daughter looking for local community helping because landlord that provides lot for her trailer won't fix the electric issue he caused. Oh, gotcha. Yes. Thank you. Another issue. Alice is talking about how, you look for community to fix things. Yeah. To make things better. Yeah. Right? Don't be wrong. Should you punish the landlord for not having electricity? Yes. But while you're punishing the landlord, it'd be nice if he has electricity. Right? She goes on to say, her and her kids in the lights or heat right now. Yes, it'd be nice to have light and heat while you're still punishing the landlord. The landlord should give you light and heat, of course. But what do you do in between? Right? What do you do in between? Well, I have an idea. Fall back to your community. Because if you try to go to government, you can, but you know how well that works. So, yes. Patty goes on to say, just knowing someone's listening and cares helps a lot. Yes, yes, and yes. And what you'll hear me say all the time, whatever problem you might have in your life, whether that's a financial problem, a substance problem, a physical problem, mental problem, a medical problem, whatever the problem is that you might have in your life, whatever that is, family problem, whatever. The first thing you need before you get any other help at all, to your point, Patty, is somebody who cares. That's the first thing. When you get somebody who cares, who can now have a conversation with you about whatever issue you're dealing with, now you can go find out what is the help that you need, right? That's the piece. Then you can find out the help that you need. But the first thing is your point. You need someone who cares, because sometimes that may be enough, right? It might be enough, but it might not, right? It depends. It might be enough, but it might not. But either way, you figure this out by having someone who just listens, who cares, who goes, wow, Patty, that's a problem. Okay, what can we do to fix it? How can we make things better? What can we do? So, yeah. So, all righty. Let's see here. Paula says, a Black author recently opened a bookstore/coffee shop in my city to have a small place for people to gather and read and drink coffee. He wanted to reach out to people of color, white people, LGBTQ, homeless people, and the elderly, just anyone in our hood. I mentioned that he is Black because it feels like he is telling anyone who is marginalized that they can start a business and be a positive force in an urban environment. Oh, I like that. It's a good story, Paula. I like that. It's a good story. Yeah. Look, the other day, I think it was my wife or some of my family, it was my uncle, I forgot. He was saying how he didn't understand, why we have so many coffee shops. You drink that much coffee? I'm like, coffee shop isn't just coffee shop. Coffee shop's a place to meet people, right? It is. Speaking of that, ways of helping people, meet people. You can help me by commenting, and sharing. Please do that, guys. It does matter tremendously. It absolutely does. Also, support my sponsor, the World's Smallest Political Quiz. Click that link. Take the test. Share your results. Let people talk about this. It does matter. So please do that. It will help tremendously. If you want to support the show directly, you can. Patreon.com/Sharpway. $10 a month, $5 a month helps me out to move this thing forward. If you like what I'm doing, if you like what I'm saying, if you like what's going on, the information you're getting and the conversation you're having, support the show. $10 a month is awesome. You can do it. $5 will work too if you can. All good. If you want to support me running across the state, which I'm still doing something next year, LarrySharp.com/donate. That's New York centric in general. The Sharpway show is for the Sharpway itself. LarrySharp.com/donate is for us to get ballot access in 2024. So it's specifically New York state centric. If that's what you care about, whatever matters more to you. But liking and commenting and sharing is no matter what going to help. So with that in mind, know that tomorrow I have a free solution at 1 p.m., another show at 7 p.m. I have a guy on as we talking about his way of making things better for all of us. Again, another interesting show. Give the guy's name if I can. Yes, Corey Heppola will be on tomorrow evening at 7. I have Donnie the Don on Wednesday, Kirsten Tinnen on Thursday, and Adam B. Coleman on Friday. Yes, we have a full slate this week of guests starting tomorrow for 4 days straight. And of course, I will have Libertarian Chicken Coffee live on Wednesday with the one and only Ricky Harrington Jr. So an absolute full-on week full of people. I hope that you're able to join me for most of those. Thank you so much for today. I appreciate it. I will see you all very soon.